Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Understanding the Paranormal with me, Ashley Robinson, some special guests this evening, Mr. Malcolm Robinson, Mr. Alien Bill, and Mr. Bob Hunt. We're looking forward to a fantastic show tonight discussing the paranormal, getting a deep dive into the paranormal and looking to get some questions for you for this fantastic special one-off subject matter expert panel, I dare say. It's going to be a really interesting show, folks. Almost anything is in scope and nothing off topic. You can hear from personal experiences of some wonderful paranormal investigators and some people get a deep dive into their minds and find out a little bit about their own personal opinions. Welcome to Spiritual Psychic TV and Understanding the Paranormal. So I'll let my guests say hello and introduce themselves, and then we will do a couple of hellos from you good folks at home. And we're really keen to hear who you are and where you're watching the show from tonight. And if you can share this stream while we're doing the hellos, that'll be fantastic. Tag a friend, let them know they've got an opportunity to talk to a brilliant panel tonight. Share it across all the social medias. And if you want to engage with us directly in the studio, make sure on YouTube you enable the live chat function, and on Facebook just join us on the main feed and right in the wall. Okay, Malcolm and Bill, good evening and welcome. Hello, Bob. Bob, would you like to introduce yourself first? Tell the good folks at home who you are.
Yeah, some people might remember me. I'm part of the Keep It Real Spiritual and Paranormal events. We used to do a show for Richard, Spirit and the Paranormal, probably about a year ago. So it's been a while, but it's good to be back.
Wonderful. And Malcolm, joining us from sunny Scotland, although you've maybe got some rain on its way.
Hi, a very good evening, Ashley, and good evening, guests and listeners and viewers. It's great to be back on the show. Yes, the weather's not very great here in Scotland this evening, but that doesn't matter because we're going to be talking about all things weird and wonderful right up my street. I love it to death. So, yeah, it's going to be a great show.
And Bill, welcome. You've beamed in this evening.
Yeah, this is an impromptu little visit. Thanks for yourselves and Malcolm Robinson, my best buddy on little planet Earth. Nicknamed Daniel Bill for some guys in York years ago from the pubs that I frequent occasionally. And I've been filming paranormal, ET stuff, interdimensional things for quite a number of years now. And I've got hundreds of thousands of pictures that are going in a book unnamed yet. It'll be out to the world next year, which Malcolm's been kindly helping me with.
Yes.
Lovely. And there'll be opportunities to tell us about some of the context in those photos. Hopefully, most of you joining us on Spiritual Psychic TV this evening know me. I'm Ashley Robinson. I'm a spiritualist medium based in South London at Wimbledon Spiritualist Church. And I work with Life After Death Promotions, an organisation my grandfather founded back in 1982 with some wonderful mediums and ambassadors for spiritualism, Doris Stokes, Gordon Higginson and Jessie Nason. And back in 82, the mission was simple: share our knowledge of life after death, share the truths of spiritualism. And one of the things my grandfather always say to me is, before you blame the paranormal, look for the paranormal. Find out what it is. Look for something supernormal before you call it supernatural. And I know that you're all people of evidence. You're looking for evidence and you're blending that with some of your opinions. So let's see who's joining us on the show tonight. I know we've got Alison Barton that joins us on YouTube this evening. Good evening, Alison. Getting some prompts from the Portsmouth studio. And Malk and Bill, I'll let you do the next two names.
Yeah, we've got Stace Shaw. A very good evening to you, Stace. Nice to have you with us.
Oh, yeah, Pamela Rogers. Hi. It's good to have these folk on anyway, because this is mega important to folk.
Bill.
Hi, Lisa Paris. And thanks for joining us.
Bob.
Hey, mate.
You do the next one.
Yeah, there's nobody else coming. We're stuck on Lisa. How you doing, Lisa?
You're meant to use your sixth sense.
All right, I'm Mary. Good evening, Mary. Oh,
Mary
from Dundee. That's you. See, those two should be doing this one.
Good on you, Mary.
Sheena Lightheart. Evening from Thunder and Lightning, Scotland. You've drawn in some Scottish community tonight, Malk.
That would have been more fit if you'd seen the Braveheart. Would have fitted even better.
Absolutely.
Malk, over to you, and Bill, and then Bob again.
Yes, we've got Amanda Mee. A very good evening to you, Amanda. Lovely to have you on the show tonight. Do tune in and stay with us.
Oh, and then Myra Thompson from Glasgow. I'm going to meet some folks shortly from Glasgow, and know a lot of folk involved in paranormal there.
And Ivy May Caswell. Good evening. Caswell, that's Julie Caswell.
Yeah,
that-
Julie's
yeah.
daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie Bentley, good evening to you.
Hi, Nick Malay. Very nice to have you with us this evening, Nick.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
Rhonda Robertson. Oh, there's that Robertson then. Good evening to Rhonda.
Help me, Rhonda.
Hey, Kim Byrne, good evening.
Sarah Burston, good evening to you. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Cheryl Berdamek. I hope I've pronounced your surname correctly. Apologies if I haven't, but hi.
I've got an easy one there. Olivia Louise. Wait a minute. Is it Fanwood? Is that then?
Yeah.
Fanwood, yeah. Evening,
Good friend,
Olivia.
Olivia. Olivia's
And
joining us at the conference in March, Malcolm.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic.
And Terry. Terry's always on there.
Got some good community within SPTV, and a lot of people will be very aware of the Spiritual and Psychic Weekend, either in October or March this year. Some of that community. Millie B, good evening to you.
Very good evening, Mary Dixie. Hello. Great to have you with us.
Eva Burostam.
From Sweden.
From Sweden. Oh, the
nonetheless.
Burostam. That's very Swedish.
Yes, very yellow
Yeah.
and blue, Bill. Yellow and
Julie
blue.
Hall, good evening.
As we get to meet people from all over the world, you get that glimpse of what it's like to work at an airport doing passenger announcements, and having to get everyone's name absolutely right. Joanne Lewis, good evening to you.
Hi, Holly Johnson. What a wonderful name. Good evening to you, Holly.
Hello,
Good day,
Wendy
Wendy.
Watson. There's a lovely one.
Yeah.
Morning from where? From Austin. Was that
Australia.
Australia. Would have been
Is it?
on that. Could see Aus.
Yeah, can only see it better.
Obviously from Australia. Yeah.
I'll let Bob do one last one.
Sylvia from Bedford, good evening. A nice cat, by the way.
It's more polite. We've got to be careful because for some of our American viewers, if we start commenting on ladies' pussies on live, Richard will pull us out. Got to be really careful. It doesn't always have a universal understanding and translation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've got the idea. It's going to be an uplifting show tonight, very informal. We're really keen to get some of your questions, and you've heard a little bit about some of the panel tonight, and it really is a case of ask us anything. I'm going to get some people to share a couple of stories. For me, it's like a Friday night campfire. We're gathering around the campfire. We might not be together. We might not be sharing what I might have had, maybe a cheeky little beer on a Friday night around that fire, but we're going to share some stories, and we're going to tell you some things that perhaps influenced our opinions. Now, I introduced myself as a spiritualist medium, but I've been brought up within spiritualism. So for me, it wasn't a case of gathering evidence and look for evidence of life after death. For me, it was very much that life after death was part of my life, part of my culture. It became a way of life. And as I got older, I had the opportunity to see more of that evidence. And then when I trained as a medium, I was able to get some of that evidence. And I know that most of you watching this show tonight would have had that evidence yourself, or you would have seen it on this show, or perhaps face to face. But I've always been fascinated with the things that aren't traditional, because actually private readings in 2021, very modern, very civilized. We can do it over Skype and Zoom. We can sit down. We refer to each other as clients in the medium, and people come down and I say that I've got someone here. They're claiming to be X, Y, and Z, and they give you some lovely evidence, hopefully, of who they were and the life they lived, the experience they had in that sort of 3D personality. But one of the things that's always fascinated me was around the different types of energy. And my grandfather, who I mentioned, Derek Robinson, one of the things he said to me is that when he died, he was going to try and get himself on the poltergeist training course. He wanted to go to that college in heaven. He wanted to find it, and he wanted to come down and give us as much physical evidence as he possibly can. And perhaps he would have haunted one or two people that had perhaps given him a bit of mischief during his life. But as a medium wanting to provoke that evidence, actually looking for things that might go bang in the night might give other people a fright. We talk about modern spiritualism. We talk about the birth of modern spiritualism with the tappings and rappings of the Fox sisters in Washington state. But actually physical phenomenon within spiritualism these days is still quite rare. And when it does happen, it tends to happen behind closed doors, in closed seances or closed circles, and often requires an awful lot of what we refer to as energy to build up. But every now and then we get a phone call from a member of the congregation that says, love what you do. Is there any chance you could pop round home? Because things are happening at home that I'm not quite sure about. And there's a big part of me as a kid growing up thinking my dad is a minister. Perhaps he had a Ghostbuster suit that he would put on and strap up his jacket and go to these houses. My sister used to talk about him chasing ghosts through the doors. But the reality of the situation, most of the physical energy that you would see at people's houses was often the physical result of confrontation, or perhaps in sad cases, abuse, alcohol abuse, drugs abuse, or even domestic abuse. And we all are capable of producing that energy within ourselves. And one of the things that Albert Einstein used to say about energy is that energy cannot really be created or destroyed. It can only be changed. And of course, as the energy manifests itself in different ways, at different vibrations across this universe, lots of us have different experiences with it. So, Bob, I'm going to come to you first. And I know that you're a paranormal investigator, and perhaps you could lead us into a bit of a story about what you've come across in your paranormal investigation.
Oh, man, honestly, Ashley, we were talking about this the other day. And my honest thought is, if I told people the things that we'd seen, the things we heard and felt, people would just not believe you. If they were not that way inclined, they would just say, you're just making it all up. Because we've done everything. We used to have a spiritual cafe with people. We would put all sorts of lessons on every night. And in there, we would have direct voice. We had a little bit of poltergeist with Coke cans sliding. We had, after a witchcraft evening one night where they were teaching about the history of witchcraft, and then done a little vigil to raise some energy for healing. They forgot to let that free, and this glass coaster just exploded. And it was just, funnily enough, and we always talk about coincidence, it was the one that had the ladies' advert underneath it. It just, so we've seen lots and lots of crazy things. But at the moment, when you think like, what's the best thing we've seen? I mean, I could go to a stately home where we were sat down in the basement and heard what we thought was someone running across the floors above us, thinking, oh, I don't know why they're running in the dark, but that's unusual. But when we actually sat and listened to the recording, it was someone playing the drums in the room that we were in. It was just like a drum call, almost like a Civil War drum call or something like that. And the things that you ask for and you get it on response, tapping. We had a lovely little hall just down the road from us. We hired for a Friday night, spiritual night. And the things that happen in there when you're asking for taps and raps, and they would come from all around the room. And actually, the very first night we were there, it was only me and Sally because we'd arrived early to set the room up. Sally went out for a cigarette. And as I'm sat on the hall, someone knocked the door right next to me that was only a hallway and a storeroom. So me being me, I just say, well, if that's spirit, can you knock the door again, please? And sure enough, there it was, 3 taps, exactly the same. She just said, well, don't stay outside, my friend. Come on in and join in with us. And every Friday, there he was, going through the circle, come around. Saw some marvellous things. So, up and down, there's absolutely loads. I've been on a lot of paranormal investigations that have been boring and nothing's happened at all, but a lot that have been very, very active, and we've had some great evidence.
Great insight. And Malcolm, Okay. Yeah, just to confirm, folks, tonight there's no spiritual readings or spiritualist readings tonight, but do check out the channel tomorrow night from 8 p.m. or Sunday morning on the Divine Service. So Bob was just giving us a brilliant introduction to the context of some of the things he's seen. And Malcolm, I quoted my granddad that said, "Always look for the supernormal before the supernatural." And there are people like me that want to see something. Not that I want to provoke spirit; that's the wrong word, but I want to encourage them to give us that evidence of an afterlife. And what sort of things do you have to do to rule out the supernormal before the paranormal?
Well, first and foremost, it's extremely important to provide a rational explanation for any given haunted house, because we've been on many investigations with our society, strange phenomena investigations. The first thing you got to do is obviously listen very carefully to the people who are telling you these stories. Are they telling you the truth? Are they looking to be rehoused? Are they trying to get their names in the paper? So you're really dotting the I's and crossing the T's to try and find out what truly is behind us. We've found in our investigations over the years that most people are honest to goodness people who are traumatized, who are terrified in some cases with poltergeist manifestations occurring in their homes. And they desperately want answers to find out what's going on. So you obviously listen to what they have to say. You have to look at the ground below the house or an apartment building, whatever it may be. What was it built on? Are we dealing with something in the past here? We have to look to see if they're really interested in the paranormal themselves. Because sometimes, I remember one case, I said to the lady, are you interested in ghosts and that, missus? No, son, not me, not at all. And then behind her, in a bookcase were all these books on ghosts. So you have to be very careful and really look at that. Once you ascertain for sure that you are really dealing with something bona fide, fantastic. And this is where the good work of our psychic mediums comes in, because although I'm not truly psychic, I've had a hell of a lot of things happen to me. We always work with a psychic medium who goes into a house and she'll look about and she'll nod and she'll say, you know what, yeah, we got something here. And when she nods her head, Ashley, that I know for sure we're dealing with something real, something tangible. The main thing is, a lot of these people in the main want rid of these ghosts, want rid of these earthbound spirits. They've found themselves in this horrible environment where they're earthbound. They don't know where to go. And it sounds a bit Hollywood, but we just, at the end of the evening, in the early hours of the morning, we have what's known as a rescue circle. And we try and impress upon these earthbound spirits, like, this is not your home anymore. You're upsetting the new tenants. There is a better place for you to go to. And so we move them on with this prayer. And, 10 times out of 10, it works. So to answer your question, be very vigilant, be very careful, keep your eyes, your wits, your ears about you, because not everything is as it seems. But in the main, I wouldn't be sitting here tonight and talking to your lovely listeners and viewers if I didn't honestly believe that we're dealing with a bona fide phenomena, that we're dealing with life after death. The spiritualism is a wonderful religion, an absolute tremendous religion. I take great comfort and joy from being part of the spiritualist movement. And I hope I'm, here for many years to come. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's great. We've just spoke between you and Bob and I about life after that change we go through as human beings, called death. And my job as a spiritualist medium has been to give evidence of those personalities. But we're a very small planet, a grain of sand in that beach that is the universe. And Bill, I wonder, what do you think about not just life after life, but life on other planets?
Life on other planets, well, it's about 1,000,000,000,000% correct. It's impossible for it not to be. And I don't just do a singularity on this universe we're in at the moment, where we're living in with our energy in this realm. Multiple universes. I wish Steve Hawkins, bless him, who's now out there, will know about the paranormal and other things, and he won't be using his electronic voice box anymore. He'd be glad to have a shot of that blooming thing. He did talk in his latter years about multi-universes and multi-dimensions. I just wish he'd done it more open to folk on this planet a few years sooner, because it's all real and correct.
Yeah.
We hardly know anything. We're in what I call cosmic college.
Ah, good point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he said some really interesting things, Steve. I mean, one of the more terrifying he was, utilizing all of that intelligence was that, not all life on other planets is necessarily friendly. If you look how hostile we would be considered as a planet against each other, let alone internationally, there are all sorts of questions. But Bob, I'd be interested to know. We've been talking again about the paranormal investigations and life after life, but life on other planets. And I've always very much thought about the afterlife as having less barriers. No need for a physical body to have the experiences. You're able to be anywhere you want to be at any time. In this 3D experience, of course, we're limited. We've got our physical body. We require transport to get places, and we're limited by our technology and the palette of our imagination. But when you're out doing investigations, looking for things which people perhaps aren't traditionally seeing with their normal senses, how do we know that what we're seeing is intelligence? And where's that intelligence from?
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing that, for me, the difference between, say, a ghost to me is a recording of an event and that just replays. So there's no real intelligence with it. But when you're on a paranormal investigation, if you're getting someone that's intelligent, that's responding to what you're asking and is asking you questions at the same time and is pushing you for what you think, that's intelligent. So that has to come from somewhere. In the main, I do believe that it is people that have passed and their spiritual energy has gone on and they're still learning, because I've had many radio conversations on the spirit radio. But one of the things I found really interesting was we were in a hotel and we were having a conversation on the radio with two people that went on for a very long time. All radio stations cut out and it was just the same two voices answering the questions that we had. And one of the things they did halfway through was switch the conversation to UFOs and said, we need radio telescopes. Well, obviously Bill would know more about this than I do, but I did ask him and never really got the answer whether the UFOs or the spaceships that we see around Earth have actually come hundreds of millions of miles to visit us, or whether in the multi-dimensional universe that we're talking about, whether they are just different versions of humans and have learned how to slip between one dimension to another, and they slip in, slip out. We get to see their craft that they're using, and then they're gone again. So, I mean, I don't know. And it's almost like, where do people go? Where does the energy go to when they die? Do they go to another planet and live on and be part of their energy here as a intelligence, or do they slip to another dimension? Say, where is heaven? Where is hell? Is it all here in the same thing? It's just a different vibration and we don't see it, but it's all actually within the same space.
Yeah. Some good questions there, and you partly answered a question that came up from Terry about poltergeists, and I can't remember my French or German from school. It was generally Paul. I think my teachers would have described it as, but I think it generally interprets as noisy ghost or noisy a noisy spirit, Terry. And yeah, I like your explanation there, Bob. There, that ghost is almost in sort of a remembrance, a memory of something that's about replaying, but yeah, an intelligence energy. And good question there about where people go. Malk, where do you think people go?
Well, once people pass on to the other side, I mean, being a spiritualist, I can only give you my views, which I guess is shared by many countless thousands of people worldwide. But I think once we shift off this mortal coil, we are met by loved ones who's passed before us. And that brings me tremendous comfort, actually, that knowing that I will see my mother, my father, my brother, my aunties and uncles when I pass myself to the spirit realms. It's a wonderful place of, learning, etc. I mean, I'm not in a hurry to get there, of course, but certainly it's a place that once I do meet up with everybody, it's going to be a joyous occasion. Obviously, skeptics would quite rightly say that we're all off our heads. There's no such thing as a spirit world. It's all oxygen starvation to the brain. There's no such things as out-of-body experiences, etc., etc., etc. We know that. As a psychic researcher myself, I have to look over the fence. I have to look at both sides of the coin in my pocket. Who's telling the truth? Where does the real validity lie in these claims? But my research over 40 odd years has clearly shown to me that there is this transition, that we do go to this other realm. Where the other realm is, I think it's like the gentleman that just spoke a moment ago, it's to do with dimensions. We're talking about subatomic physics here. We're talking about quarks, neutrinos. Mankind knows so little. We're learning all the time about ourselves, you know, but it's in there somewhere, in that dimensional shift, that's where we go. And it's probably all around us, vibrating at different frequencies.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And you think about, we've heard about dimensions, we've heard about frequencies. When I talk about life after death, I talk about different vibrations of energy. And,
Exactly.
and Bill, you were talking a little while about dimensions just a little while ago. Do you think that human beings in our sort of 3D experience in these bodies engage or have engagements with other beings from other realms?
Definitely do, regularly. There are tens of thousands of folk around the wee planet Earth, as it is, come across this. Some see them with their own eyesight, some get telepathic messages from them, and plenty of people pick them up on cameras that they can't see with naked eye, but the camera mechanism can show it through that. On an own personal level with my wife's mother, we lost her, what did it be, about 7 years ago, through multi-myeloma cancer. I've been her son-in-law for over 40 years. She's the only mother I knew on this planet, because I lost my own birth mum when I was 2 years old. So I really don't remember her at all. But my wife's mother-in-law, Patricia, I chatted to her about things for years. And when she was in a hospice, getting back to within about 24 hours, passing on, I said, you've had one of the strangest son-in-laws you could have ever had on planet Earth, Patricia. If you find a way to come through to Alien Bill, as they call me, I'll catch you on camera. She did it the following day after moving on at 2 o'clock in the morning, the hospice, came to our house in the living room, when my daughter came from her house, had a group hug with my wife and I about just after 9 o'clock on the Saturday evening, after moving on in the early hours of the day before. And I'd said to my wife in the corner after we had a group hug, and my daughter laid on the couch, real upset. She'd lost her nana and they were really close. I said to my wife, I've something to show you. The words my wife said to me, I've just lost my mum yesterday. You're not going to go film your ET buddies now, are you? I said, no. I'll go to the middle of the room, got me basic 350 quid digital camera out my haversack, got to point it because I could feel the energy was in front of my daughter, laid on the couch, sobbing her heart out. Before I'd even got it up past my kneecaps, the camera powered itself up. I even put the power button on it, and it just fired off around my feet, and this like lion's tail of energy coiled on the floor, going up the ceiling, lit up in front of me, and then a brown shaft of light also was behind it. And lo and behold, doing all little S shapes in the bottom of the brown shaft of light, going over towards my daughter, was golf ball sized orbs glowing inside it. And I says, I knew it was Patricia. I said, blimey neck, Patricia, as you'd only moved on yesterday. I says, it took you 2 blooming years to pass your driving test, and you learned how to change and come and see us overnight. Who's a clever gal then?
Yeah, brilliant story, and thank you for sharing that. We got a question from Stage, which we'll take in a minute. But Bob, I wondered if you had any quick stories you wanted to share about things that you've captured on camera. And the follow-up question to that is, yeah, some people talk about the fact that it's hard to capture, ghosts or spirits or energy on camera, but actually, as Bill's just said, there are some people, not just my granddad, that are trying to be captured, that want to be on film, that want to show you there's a life after life. So yeah, Bob, take us through that, and then Malk, perhaps you can start with answering Stage's question just after.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So it's a bit of a strange one that perhaps Bill and Malcolm will understand. We were investigating an abbey, and it's an abbey local to us that is well known to be haunted. But one of the things that come through, and it come through the Ouija board, was a spirit telling us that we don't see ghosts and spirits because we are at the wrong vibration, which is what we've understood. But if we could find the technology to slow down, I can't remember whether it was slow down or speed it up because it was a few years ago, but to speed up what we were recording or slow down, we would actually see what was going on around us. So it's all about that speed. With people like Bill that saw his mother-in-law, I think every now and then you will meet a special spirit that has the energy to do it. It doesn't happen very often, and to capture something that's real hard evidence is rare. It really is rare. And personally, I find now that we find more through voice and physical activity than we do through pictures. I think cameras have also changed. I mean, you'll find with Richard, like when he come to us on a couple of investigations, the amount of orbs you'd see, and people automatically, and I've seen people jump straight away. Oh, it's a load of orbs. It must be spirits. Well, it's not, because 99.9% of that is dust or moisture or insect or something. It's very, very few. You have to see something as its own light source. It will respond to anything you ask it. It has to be something really special to convince me that that's a spirit orb. It's a very dodgy subject because some people really believe in them and some people absolutely don't. So to capture something on film, you have to be in the right place at the right time with the right spirit. You really have to be quite lucky to catch that, in my experience.
Can I come in on the orb thing for you there? Because me and Malcolm next year down in Hastings, we're going back to with some of Mal's friends. We're going to put a DVD together. At the moment, all I have is I have building a file building up, and I'd have to take install pictures of some of these say
Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the technical issues. We had a brief moment with the Intergalactic Council of Aliens, UFOs, and beings of life after death that just told us to keep our tempers and made sure we only spoke about the truth. No, I'm joking. But we'd certainly experienced some technical issues. And after exploring all of the supernormal and see if any of the fleshy bits attached to the equipment had pressed the wrong button, I may certainly well have done. We're back, and hopefully we are now live, folks. So do continue to chat on YouTube and Facebook. We're sorry for any problems. And Mark was just about to talk about hard evidence of alien life, but just bear with us, folks. We're still getting a couple of technical issues reported to us and some internet buffering. But hopefully, if you just pull your video back, refresh the screen, you should be back with us. And Mark will tell us a little bit about some hard evidence of alien life that he may have encountered, and maybe even had someone playing with models recently to recreate events.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the question from Stace Shaw. She's asking if we've seen any hard evidence of alien life. It depends what you quantify as hard evidence. I mean, obviously, in the last few months, we've had the release by the Pentagon of some tremendous footage of what they call the Tic Tac UFOs. The reason they're called that is it's shaped like this little sweet, the Tic Tac, and they've been seen from the USS Nimitz and the USS Theodore Roosevelt, who sent off fighter jets to pursue these fast-moving objects. Now, if this is our own technology, wow, wonderful, fantastic. But what we have to remember and bear in mind is these objects are going so fast and stopping and then spinning away at tremendous speeds, the G-force. If that was a normal pilot, the G-force would certainly kill him. So we're either dealing with a real bona fide alien phenomena, or it's our own technology, our own black budget technology. But I tend to believe that if that was a black budget technology, my God, you know, somebody's in for a real scare. Is it the Chinese? Is it the Russians, etc.? Well, we could debate that all day long. But the question Stace asked is there truly any good evidence of alien life? For me personally, as a researcher on the spiritualism and the ufology, UFOs have been with us since time immemorial. It's a global phenomenon. It's touched every continent in this planet. You see it in Renaissance paintings, you see it in cave drawings, cave art, etc. Many people, high-standing academic people, young children, middle-aged people, doctors, lawyers, all have seen UFO activity. 95% can be explained as normal, absolute normal. 5% remains. 3% of the 5 that remains could be our own black budget technology. The 2% that remains, one of that could be a new, rare atmospheric phenomena. The fly in the ointment. The fly in the ointment is only 1%, but that is enough to convince me we're dealing with something very real, very tangible. Here in Bodybridge, in central Scotland, we went down to 10 Downing Street to petition various prime ministers, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and various other prime ministers, to come to Scotland and open up a government inquiry to these wonderful sightings in central Scotland. It fell on deaf ears. We have a multitude of photographs, we have a multitude of video footage allegedly showing what people would presume to be alien craft. Is it the real deal? I've said to Ashley Robinson before that we're living in the Steven Spielberg age of DreamWorks Laboratory, where anything can be manipulated onto screen to look fanciful and wonderful. Thankfully, that same technology can be applied to say, well, hey, I've tried everything, but this looks real. Now, the bottom line is we're dealing, for me, with a bona fide real phenomena. Alien Bill here on my left has seen some incredible stuff. I've seen incredible stuff. Is it enough to convince Joe public walking the streets? Who knows? But maybe one day soon we'll get that evidence. The worrying aspect for me is the UFO abductions, but that's another story.
Good. And I think it plants the seed, doesn't it, about what people want to see, and even the word alien. If we were not on planet Earth in a sort of 3D experience, then we would be the alien, wouldn't we? If people were sort of interpreting with us, and really keen to get more questions from people about some of the things that you want going on. But a reoccurring theme, which I'd like to bring Bob in first of all, is this concept of shadows or shadow people. Be that certainly not the usual thing you would see, and I just want to sort of plant that seed that as a spiritualist medium, for me it could just be the way that we're interpreting energy of someone who no longer has a sort of 3D incarnation of 3D experience. Some of that is based from sort of personal opinion, some of it based from the Hollywood film Ghost. We talk about vibrating and energy being slightly higher or faster, heaven above, maybe hell being slightly lower, perhaps but below us. And for me, when the shadow people come onto Ghost and take away the bad people with the bad intentions, doing the mischief stuff, I wonder if there's an element of existence in that life after life which could explain that. But Bob, I'm keen to get your opinion, and then we'll ask Malcolm and Bill for theirs.
Yeah, okay. Funnily enough, the one person that would probably have a more in-depth answer who come up right at the beginning of the show. He said hello. His name was Nick Mueller. He's an American who was on a paranormal show with myself going back some time, and then come on and with Richard and Kate, I think. I can't remember. But we've done a show about UFOs and aliens. Very in-depth man, and I spoke to him quite a lot about shadow people. Now, I don't have a great deal of knowledge about shadow people, because there's something that, although they're within the paranormal world, there's one of them things that every time I look into it, there's a different explanation. So it's like Malcolm saying earlier about the Hat Man. Now, I've read some explanations of that says that it's an evil entity that's spying on people, and others that is someone who's there to help people. I have no idea. It just seems, but I certainly can't write them off because I have seen them. But I just don't know what they are. I can't put the explanation other than it's another form of spirit energy, whether it's dimensional or whether it's a spirit that has shown themselves within that energy. I can't say 100%.
Yeah.
Lovely, thanks. Malcolm, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to actually pass you over to Alien Bill, because he's actually interacted with the shadow person, and he's got a photograph. Fingers crossed you can see that just now. Bill, would you like to explain about the shadow person you encountered?
Yeah, Mal's put in some of these in one of his latest books, as well as the Gordy Man, and I've got so many. Some of these I filmed over 2 years, quite a lot. These were on the ground around me. Malcolm knows of a story, and another researcher called Nick Kyle got involved in it. I've had the upright ones coming at me, one trying to basically kick my butt in a car park, and I just laughed at it.
True.
And it didn't actually physically touch me. I even joked about it as it put its hands towards me as it came through a huge bush. It was about 25, 30 foot long and about 12 foot high. I was just taking a D-lock off my bike late at night, and all the hair spiked up on the back of my neck. And straight away I sensed something dodgy was behind me. I turned around, and there's this huge fellow. It was solid black silhouette of a geezer, no hat on, not the Hat Man one. Shadow fellow behind me, and he was shaking like he was stuck, sort of whatever realm he came from and interacting out. I noticed he couldn't move properly, fluently like a human being. But it was coming towards me, and I backed away, not afraid. None of these entities ever get me afraid. And I laughed at him at first, saying, "What the hell are you doing here? And you don't look so good for humanity." So then I starts getting my camera out of my haversack I've left next to my bike, and it's coming at me, and he puts his hands up as he's coming towards me, and I went, "Friggin' hell, you've got hands, it's Bigfoot. You're freaking Bigfoot with your mitts, mate, and you've been working out in the gym." And this energy was coming at me, it levitated me off the floor, only about 6 or 8 inches, and pulled me back with an energy force. I was on some grass, and I got up, and in Ray-Ban glasses, I have to protect myself from certain energy and light beings that come to me, who are good folk, sort of damaged my eyes a little bit. So I wear them for that, and it seemed to want to, this shadow being, get my glasses off me and use my eyes like windows to the soul or something. And I was telling off, getting annoyed. Ones I have captured, I'll show you in here now. This is my front garden, one I've given to Mal, and you can see my feet on the floor, turn around talking to you when I was filming light beings around me. And this suddenly appeared, and I saw this shadow energy going on my gravel in my front garden. And I said, "Hello, where's your shadow person again? You come with a bit of a nosy." And I don't know whether you can see that. There's a picture of it with my foot on the floor, and that's the camera cord going down.
And you've got this shadow person there.
And that's on the floor, and he was moving and following me around my front garden while I was filming other folk from some other dimensions. And I was talking to it, and it got no telepathic message back, just stayed around me for quite a bit. Have you got it? That way.
Yeah, it's gone off.
Oh, it's gone off.
Nice to see you got a picture of him on your phone.
Anyway, I don't know whether you can see that. Is it in the right spot? That way. Yeah, you can see my foot on the floor, my trainers. I'm turning around and talking to it, and the camera cord going down. That is taken on flash on gravel in my front garden. The flash of the camera couldn't penetrate through the shadow being. The flash of the lit the gravel up straight through it. It seemed to absorb the light off my camera. Didn't affect it all. And as I was doing that with it, there was also some translucent on some of the pictures I took, about just a bit smaller, is the orbs again. Translucent red orbs appeared around these as well, on top of them. So I got dozens of pictures of those, dozens of them.
And the thing is, as well, I mean, I'm dealing specifically with a case over in Dublin in Ireland right now of a shadow person and a hat man. And, you know, it is indeed, as the gentleman said earlier, it is endemic within the paranormal world that people see this shadowy person, either wearing like a trilby hat or one of these old-fashioned hats, very menacing. Some of them appear to have these kind of red eyes. And the family that I'm dealing with just now, I've had terrible troubles with these shadow people, these hat men people coming in into the very bedrooms and disrupting their whole lives, you know, and it can be terrifying, you know, and that's a sad part. That's a sad part of the paranormal phenomenon, that we have these entities and what is going on with these creatures. You know, Bill, as you saw there just now, this thing just fell at his foot. You could see the shadow of the head and the shoulders, and it tried to attack him. So we have this sad aspect with the paranormal, which we have to be very, very careful and look at it very closely.
I think that there could be so many things going through my mind to sort of explain it. But Bill, who do you think you're interacting with? Who do you think you're engaging with at that time?
At that time, I've been filming my next door neighbour's bush, which was 12 foot high.
To any of our American friends, that's in the backyard.
In the front garden, and I've had other light energies come into it as I contact with nature, and I use almost nature like a cosmic antenna. I've been called like I'm a cosmic conduit, for want of a better word, and I use nature as part of me getting in touch with other beings from other dimensions, in touch with nature, and the nature does pick up on it. I was doing that at the time, and these balls of light and other ends were coming around this bush, and that's when this shadow being suddenly appeared coming around my feet, and I just looked down and saw it moving around me, and I went, "Oh, hello, some of you back again. You've come for a bit of a nosy, have you?" and stuff there. But I have to say, not all shadow energies, just because they're black and dark, are bad. They're not. Some of them can't help the way they come through. I have had some bad interaction with some, but not all of them are bad. One of these upright ones, also after the one trying to kick my butt in the car park, a few months later, it appeared at the end of my bed about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. That again also wasn't a good one, because it leaned forward over me. My little dog Rocky at the time was fast asleep on the end of the bed, did not wake up, which startled me. The critter didn't wake up. Wife's asleep at the side of me, and this shadow geezer appears at the end of the bed, and I could see it was there clearly because I have my curtains open every night, so I can see what's going on in the cosmos and strange things. I never have my bedroom curtain shut, so his silhouette of him stood out easily on quite a good moonlit light through my bedroom window. But this fellow felt like a geezer again, leant forward over me, and I felt like my chest was being crushed by it. And I still got up, pushing my own force back against it and telling him, well, known in some terms, where he can damn well go back to, and don't go bothering anybody else either.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we've got to be understanding about these things do happen to people. And when we laugh and joke and poke fun at people who have these stories, but by God, you know, sadly they're true. And as a researcher for over 40 years, I can safely say that this does go on. It's not a great aspect of the paranormal, but it's clearly one that we should be listening to and investigate more properly and find out what else going on.
Yeah, really good. And we had a question a moment ago that I think segues quite nicely into this, and perhaps Bob can introduce us. Someone was talking about seeing what appeared to be the spirit or consciousness of their mother leaving the body. And you know, for me, watching old photographs that we used to see in books at the church, and hear my parents and grandparents talk about ectoplasm, you know, an external substance, and you know, Helen Duncan, obviously a great ambassador for spiritualism, about the fact that she would use the energy around her almost coming out of her mouth. Some people described it almost like a grey or a white soot, or some people said even like sheets, almost like bed sheets, that would then take on the resemblance, the personality of the communicator. Ectoplasm being one side of that. I've also seen mediums in physical circles produce mist, and it's not really them producing, it's about using the energy that's around them. So Bob, I think it's absolutely possible. It was Mary Lowe that said this about seeing the spirit leave the body. In fact, my granddad, my great grandmother, Nanny Maggie, my dad was by the side of her bed and told us that as children. It wasn't scary, it was comforting to know she was greeted by her parents and taken to that place I call heaven. But what do you think, Bob?
Oh, I would say that Mary very likely had seen the spirit leaving, and I know it's something that's been seen by very many people. I was there when my dad passed. I can't say that I saw anything like that, but I did see that awareness of him, that it was his time and he was going. But physically, I can't say that I saw anything actually leave. Now, going back to the old photos, there's no doubt that the beginning photographs, when you look at them, a lot of them were fake, but there's not. I'm not saying that all of them were. You talked about Helen Duncan, and it's a shame that Sally's not with me, because her nan actually was with Helen Duncan in Portsmouth when they were above a chemist shop or something that they had all there. So she interacted quite a lot with Helen Duncan and has a lot of stories around there, what Helen Duncan was capable of, the time that the police raided her, and from what I understand, the ectoplasm rushed back into her body because they were disturbed, and it more or less burnt her on the way in and was a very big contributor to her dying.
Yeah.
So I've absolutely no doubt that Mary could see that. I wouldn't find it scary, because, mind you, some of the things we do, I've been in situations a bit where you think, well, that should be scary, but you're actually asking for these things to happen. So, yeah, I've no doubt that it was real.
Yeah, lovely. And there was another question that came in about the ability of spirit or other beings to help us. And Bill, you certainly gave us a reflection of your encounter, and that you're able to push back too. As a medium, and the vast majority of intelligent energy I communicate with, I believe, are the personalities and the souls of people we loved. I obviously know that that personality is a true reflection of the person they live their life, and therefore, if they're a little bit cheeky, they're a little bit naughty, dare I say they're a little bit dark, they're a little bit evil, then elements of that personality would cross over them to the life after life. I think that their higher self and them probably make a bit of a prison of their own, their own doing anyway. But I've always believed that spirit beings are unable to do anything without my consent or my permission, without me either inviting them in directly, or by me not allowing any type of discipline. And by discipline, I mean a relationship with my guides, my guide team, and also being in full control of my mind, body, and soul. In the same way I wouldn't drink and drive, or take drugs and drive, fly an airplane, anything like that. There's that sort of discipline as a medium. But of course, there are other experiences, and I wondered, Malcolm, if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the good side, to answer the question, the good side about this, the life after life, is a story that I have mentioned before in this show, but for any new viewers and listeners, it's quite important. And that is the honesty and conviction from the person who's passed on to the people who's still living. Now, my father, when he saw my interest growing up as a child into this wonderful subject of ghosts and poltergeists, he said, look, he says, Malcolm, your granny, my mother, as you know, sadly passed away a few weeks ago. Yes, that's right. He says, well, a few nights ago, I was lying in my bed and I wasn't sleeping, son. Now, this is him telling me the story. I wasn't sleeping. And the room was in darkness. And then suddenly this beautiful, beautiful light blue light pervaded the whole room. And he heard the name, Robert, Robert, look at me, look at me. And he knew that was his mother, my gran. She had died a few days before. And there's a voice. And so he gingerly got the covers that was covering his eyes and pulled it down his face. And he looked. And in the corner of the room was his mother, his dead mother. But she looked about 30 years younger. She passed about, I think it was her late 80s, but she looked about 35. She retorted back to a time in her life that she was comfortable with, she was happy with. And she said to my father, she says, son, and this does sound Hollywood, but this is what she said. Son, I've passed on, and I'm just wanting to say my final goodbyes, and I love you, and we'll all see each other again. And with that, this light in the room just dissipated and folded in within itself, and then it was darkness again. Now, the story ends in the fact that she went and visited my father's brothers, my uncles, that same night, woke them up, said goodbye. And this is a story from my own father, and I'm absolutely convinced he wouldn't lie to me. And these are the comforting stories that people watching the show this evening should warm to, because that spirit making themselves known. The question will be, why does it happen all the time? Why does it happen? I've lost someone. Why don't I see them? The only reason I could give that is that some people are more psychically attuned, more psychically aware to perceive the other side coming through, and maybe the more psychic a person is, they will see that phenomena. But that's a great comfort to me, and to see and know that our loved ones are still there, albeit in a different existence.
Great, nice one, Malcolm. Thank you for that. And Bill, I'm going to bring in a question from Eva in a minute, but I wondered from your experience I talk a lot about this 3D world, you know, this sort of third dimension as a human being and a humanoid. How many other life forms do you think are in a similar existence to us, or occupying in a similar space with a humanoid sort of 3D experience?
You can't put an exact figure on that, but I think there's dozens. We don't know an exact number. Oh, the thing that Malcolm just mentioned there, I must put in over with his gran that coming back. He knows over the last few months recently, when I lost, because you just talk about humans coming back, critters can do that as well. Cats and dogs, and everything. I lost my dog that I had for 15 years. I put him on stage in camera shots when I was lecturing at university with Malcolm in 2015, including my mother-in-law's picture. And my dog Rocky has come back about 9 times over the last few months. Sometimes translucent, sometimes solid. And as Malcolm mentioned there, I had to put in about his grand looking younger. My dog after 15 had whiskers a bit like me, going a bit grey and silvery, around his chinny chin and everything. But when he was seen by me and my wife, he looked about 7 or 8 years younger. Yeah. And we've seen him as solid, as translucent. He's scratched around the sofa. You could hear his claws. We felt his presence pressing on the end of our bed where he kicked. So it's not just humans coming back. Plenty of critters come back to folk as well.
Absolutely. And although we have no need for a physical body in the spirit world, I've heard many times that people can recreate the body or the shell, and they can, of course, do that without any of the imperfections and sort of any age they want. And one of the strangest messages I ever gave was from a dog to a lady, and it really sort of unique and specific evidence that she knew only her dog had experienced with her. And I was very quick to say that I wasn't Dr. Doolittle. I wasn't communicating with a dog, but actually without a physical body, the dog was able to put those presents and those images into my head. But Bob, I wonder if on any of your paranormal investigations you've had evidence of people other than humans.
Do you know what? Through the radio, we were when I first got with Sally. Sally is the spiritualist and been a spiritualist for many years. I was more scientific, paranormal investigator, and getting together sort of brought the two worlds together, if you like, and it become a crossover. And one of the things I taught Sally was the spirit box. So we would go, and every night we would go in bed, put the radio on, and we'd sit there for half an hour, and would just ask questions. And for many days we didn't get anything at all. It was just the radio flicking through. And then one day this voice just went, hello. And we had this conversation then. And it turned out after a couple of days, because like I say, we were doing half hour to an hour every night. After a couple of days, I asked it if it could see us, because it was starting telling me, I dropped asleep one night, and he said, Bob, you're asleep, and things like this, you know. And so I asked it if he could see us, and he said, yes. Where are you? I'm in the future. Well, what do you mean you're in the future? He said, well, I'm 200 years in the future and talking to you now. So again, whether the technology in the future will evolve, which is one of the things I always come back with UFOs. Are they from the future? Are they a different dimension? What are they? I'm not sure. But this person knew exactly what I was doing in my bedroom, talking to me on a little spirit radio and telling me he was from 200 years in the future. Now, this is what I said at the beginning of the day. If I told people the things I'd seen or heard, they would think I was mental. They just wouldn't believe what I was telling them. And, you know, to Sally, it was an eye-opener, because all of a sudden you got these things. And now, to me, the radio and the ITC is the most important part of paranormal investigating, because that's where all your evidence is. You're actually hearing it, and it's on recorded.
Yeah. A pretty cool story, Bob. And I think I love mixing my own sort of personal beliefs and my own philosophy with things I enjoy watching on the telly in Hollywood or Netflix. And there is a show called Travelers on Netflix, and for anyone seen it, it's all about sending your consciousness back in time and then occupying another body as they're unable to sort of send the physical body back. And I think there's so many glimpses of that, and I wonder if any of the inspiration comes from not just their pure imagination, but from their knowledge of something else. You know, too many of the Star Trek, Stargates, and anything else with Star at the beginning of it, Star Wars, have bits of perhaps the jigsaw that is an answer to the universe. But Malcolm and Bill, we've had a lovely question come in from the lovely Stacey about the Bermuda Triangle, and she wondered if you had any strong opinions on it. And she's planted a couple of seeds there. Is it a Stargate or portal perhaps to other planets, or government-made falsity? So any thoughts on the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, I mean, and primarily it's one of these hotspots or window areas in planet Earth that seems to attract some bizarre happenings. Richard Weiner was one of the first writers about the Bermuda Triangle, followed by Charles Berlitz. And the problem I've got with the Bermuda Triangle is that in these books they have a ship or an aircraft departing the shores or leaving the airfield at a certain time, when research says, well, no, it didn't leave at that time at all. It left a lot later. There's no denying there's something operating in the Bermuda Triangle. There have been many documentaries about what possibly it could be. Some form coming up from the ocean, like your gas bubbles pulling boats down, etc. The one really good account that I am aware of from the Bermuda Triangle was a boat pulling another boat. The boat at the back had lost its engine, lost its power, so they got a big rope and they put it in the other one that was pulling it back to shore. And then suddenly a mist evolved around this boat that was being pulled, and this taut rope flopped. It was gone, and then that mist dissipated, and there was no boat there. There was no boat being pulled back. So there is something operating. We know about the Avenger bombers who were on a training flight, and they've disappeared. To this day, we have no wreckage. We have no knowledge where they are. So there clearly is these portals. Now, is it, as Stace says, is it a kind of a portal into another dimension? Again, we spoke earlier about dimensions. Maybe that's a possibility. Maybe there's something on this grid map in planet Earth, it's coming into and exiting out of these parts of the world. But yeah, there's clearly something there. It's very bizarre. I don't know about your own thoughts, Bill. What's your thoughts about Bermuda Triangle?
Mal's right about the gas bubbles and other things with methane, other things coming through and all that. But when you put all those other theories and the rogue waves and everything and all that side, which definitely happens all over the oceans, then you do get some of the most bizarre things that have happened to folk. It's not quite fit into that theory. Oh, one of them was a fellow, I can't remember his name. It was in an aircraft like a Cessna flying through. And like Malcolm mentioned, this mist thing coming around the boat happened similar to him and this fellow in his craft in that area, and started swirling around, and he felt like he was in a tunnel with mist going around of it. Obviously his compasses and everything went doolally on his craft. The thing with this flight this guy did was his plane got somewhere else on its own little one-pound little Cessna type of little aircraft far too quickly. It was impossible to do. Something happened to this guy and his craft, and he was felt really relieved he came out the other side of it, because it all got a bit stormy. But he travelled too far, too quick, that his craft, the little plane, wasn't physically able to do at all. It shifted through another time too quickly on it. And that was all in the Bermuda Triangle. So I do think generally there is strange things going on there. And it is otherworldly. It's connecting with this planet, and again, multi-dimensional things. And whatever's also going down under the oceans all over this planet. Tons of stuff down in our oceans we've not scratched hardly anything on yet at all.
To quote Gibbs from NCIS, there's no such thing as a coincidence. And, you know, for hundreds and thousands of years all over planet Earth, people have gone to and marked places of some significance, from ancient Druid signs in the movement of rocks to the building of, you know, of cathedrals or churches or ley lines and water. There's definitely something about certain bits of the planet for sure. And from portals and Bermuda Triangle, Pamela Rogers asked what we all think of haunted dolls. She has 11 of them. So I'm glad she's taken most of them out of circulation. I wasn't aware of those. There was too many of them knocking around. I mean, haunting in itself is its own interpretation, is it? I think that you know, haunting, so to see, is it what Bob was talking about? Is it a reflection of a ghost, or are we talking about an intelligent energy which has occupied the presence of a doll? So you know, I certainly enjoyed some of these horror films as a kid. They were always great to scare some of the girls I was with that might have put their arm around me for a bit of protection. But other than that, I have very limited knowledge of haunted dolls. Anyone want to come in on this one?
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, obviously, there is something really does attach to certain inanimate objects, you know, dolls, chairs. Well, many photographs allegedly of people, you know, in chairs, a smoky figure of a man, etc., who loved that chair. He loved it with a passion. He's passed on, but for some reason, his spirit personified is still attached to that chair. The same applies to dolls. You can have a child who loves his doll with all her heart, and suddenly maybe she's passed tragically in an accident, but she just wants to stay close to that doll. It sounds Hollywood, it sounds crazy. I remember once I was dealing with a case in Stirling, and this man, he was, at the time, he was only about 11 years of age, and his mother says, "Son, can you see anything in this big mirror?" "No." "Come closer." So he walked up to this big mirror, and there in the right-hand corner was this blue, fluffy toy rabbit. And when he moved back away from it again, it got all fuzzy and he couldn't see it. As the closer he got, it was there. Now looking behind him, there were no rabbits. There were no toy rabbits at all. Now the story is that that particular mirror was stored away in this big this big shop. It contained lots of dolls. It was put away in the back, and this mirror was facing all these dolls. Now, some crazy thing is, why on earth would some toy fluffy rabbit be impregnated into the very fabric of this glass and be seen? This is why we love the subject so much, because it is so bizarre. But maybe I went off topic there. Getting back to the haunted dolls, I know people who have them, and I've got to say something. We've got to be very, very careful, because on eBay There are people selling haunted dolls. Not really. They're not really. They're just trying to get money. So be very careful out there. Not everything as it seems. But haunted dolls, absolutely. Next. Who's next?
Bob, do you want to come in?
Oh, I can do, mate. Yeah. I haven't experienced a haunted doll. Now, I've heard many people that say they've got them, and I don't know. I'm sort of listening to what Malcolm said there about the people on eBay who suddenly want to make money. You call anything haunted and you put the price up by 50 quid, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying they don't exist. And it's a bit like the Dybbuk box. They say there's spirits that are locked within that box. But how many of them? There's so many of them around. They can't all be real. There has to be, if there is one or two real ones, the majority are fake. I don't know. Haunted dolls, I would say I haven't experienced them. I'm not writing them off because they certainly could exist. And another thing that Malcolm said there was, the fella sitting in his chair because he loved that chair. It happens all the time. We see that in the paranormal world. So to get that into a doll, it certainly is possible. And I've seen many programs that have good explanations for them. So maybe, I don't know, I can't write them off. I can't confirm them because I've never seen one, but I'm not going to write them off.
I don't think that Chucky movie helped on that scene. That certainly stopped for putting little denim dungarees on the kids.
Yeah.
I think their sales dropped a bit after it came out.
Yeah, absolutely. Richard, we still got a couple of minutes to ask a couple more questions. I know we're approaching that time. Okay. So... Oh, that's good. Glad you're loving it, folks. Yeah, so everyone's still good for another 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Okay, brilliant.
Can I ask Bob a quick question?
Yes, mate.
Bob, obviously you spoke earlier about ITC, and the trying to get paranormal spirit voices onto audio tape or digital tape, which I think is very, very, that's the road we should be going down. Now, I've just finished a book by Peter Banda, who wrote about Constantine Roddiff. The spirit voices originally came from Frederick Youngerson, as we know, in 1959, when he went out into the fields to record bird sound, and he started to hear spirit voices. Nobody was there. What puzzles me, and I must admit maybe annoys me, is with the electronic voice phenomena and the Frank's box and all these different devices, you only get little snatches, one or two words. You don't get a long string of sentences, and it makes me wonder why a spirit can make that leap to come through a recording device to leave something there. They don't just say more. Now, the thing is, admittedly, they do answer questions. So it's not a stray taxi signal or anything like that. They're just they are responding. That's great. But I would like to see some form of device that can collect spirit voices majestically and in longer sentences. That'd be great.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? It's something that I know a lot of people have been working towards trying to invent them.
Yes.
Whether they will ever come, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess, why can't they do longer sentences? I guess it's going to be about the energy they need to make the words. I mean, with the radios, we always found that people would say, oh, that's just a radio station. But when you ask a question, you get a direct answer. Or all the music stops and you get the same two voices talking to you and they're answering your questions, then they have to be real. So I think really the problem with a long sentence is going to be the energy that it takes to make those words. And I believe they use the radio waves to make their words as well. So it's one of the things that was said earlier, that when we were investigating and we were talking to two spirits, and one of them said, change the subject to UFOs, and he was going, you need a radio telescope. So the radio telescope was obviously looking into outer space to pick up radio waves. So it's the same thing coming through. Seems to be wherever you are, the spirits are coming in on radio waves.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and 50 years ago, we didn't have technology which would have detected Bluetooth, even if someone was putting out a Bluetooth signal. So I think that the devices and technology, it's all about energy vibrating at at different levels, isn't it, or different ways. It's all about finding ways to sort of measure that. Sue Townsend had come up with a question, and she had said, is it possible that cosmic beings are already in existence here upon Earth at the same time, although their energy is vibrating at that different frequency, and therefore sometimes we see them as if they're superimposed on a human form? So Bob, yep, definitely good.
Yeah, I think so, mate.
I'm with Bob on that one, totally. That's a big yes for me as well with Bob.
And it's a yes from me.
Okay, there we go, Sue. That means we can get through some more of your questions. Some of us go on for 10 minutes, usually me. Others, that was it. Yeah, pretty clear. The subject matter expert panel have said yes. Thank you, Sue. It's great to hear so many of your theories, folks. But we're approaching the last 5 minutes, so do throw in your questions now. And also really keen to get your feedback on the show. And I've really enjoyed coming together with you all tonight. It has felt, in a way, we're sat around that campfire sharing old war stories. It's been really lovely to do. Bob, you enjoying yourself?
Oh, I love it, mate. If you talk to paranormal, I'm like in my little element there. I could do it all day.
And Bill, you don't regret turning up at Malk's house today?
Not at all. No, it's all a pleasure. It's a pleasure, not a chore, to come across Malcolm and good fellas like yourself and a load of your listeners putting in, I must admit, some amazing questions, which have really been well thought through with the good stuff. It's important.
Yeah, it's a great community, and we've just celebrated, I think, 2 years of the channel. I've personally been involved in just over the year. But Richard, you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've just celebrated our first 1.5 million viewers across YouTube and Facebook. So 1.6, yeah. So fantastic. But thank you so much to the community.
And in the other dimension, you got a few more million, but they haven't managed.
Yeah, I have challenged friends from other. I've said, if you've got access to Skype, Richard can beam you in. We'd love to hear your reports. And I'm waiting for that moment. And a couple of times I've challenged our time traveling friends, because all of this stuff is bookmarked on YouTube. So it is the 6th of August in 2021. But if you're watching this in the future and you have the technology to come back, please contact Richard James now at Spiritual Psychic TV, and we'll make some space for you for the last 5 minutes. Nick. Okay, there's a question there, then, gentlemen, for you to note from Nick, and then we'll wait for the next sort of question to come in before adverts. But yeah, it'd be great to to have that evidence. I mean, I always loved Fox Mulder on X-Files, and the truth is out there as a sort of phrase, and it is out there somewhere. And I like to believe that the more people I meet, like-minded people, when I enjoy that experience, it's because they've all got bits of the jigsaw, this map of the universe, and we're all kind of putting our different bits back, and some of us are working away from the edges, starting in the middle, but religion, technology, metaphysics, it's all coming together. Right, is it Amy and Trevor Davis have got a question, and it's all about spiritual law. And they believe that spiritual law dictates that loved ones can't contact us freely as they would like. If we were able to question spiritual beings and were able to give answers, it would change the face of humankind. Yeah, I mean, a great question, and I agree with that to a certain extent. Bob, what do you think?
Right, first of all, can Annie... I know Annie personally, and I'd just like to send condolences to her from myself and Sally. She sadly lost her mum recently.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the spiritual law. Now, that's something that gets mentioned quite a lot. And I guess, I mean, what basically Annie's coming down to is if we knew everything from the spirit side of life, would it change the way that us as humans would act? And I guess if you knew there was no consequence to what you did, it would. I mean, if someone annoyed you down a pub one day and you knew there was no consequences, what would be your reaction? Would you just walk away, or would you do something a bit more stupid, if you like? So yeah, I do believe in the spirit law, and I don't believe we're meant to know everything. There are certain things I'd love to know more of, and I do constantly question spirits when we're talking to them about I don't know, just their life, that side of the veil, if you like. But we never really get any clear answers. We get the evidence that they are who they say they are, but you don't get evidence of what they're doing or how they're evolving or anything like that. So I'm guessing Yeah, I would believe there is a spiritual law.
Absolutely, and I've met some brilliant spiritualist mediums. I've never met any that have successfully predicting the future to a high enough a level to put bets on and win lottery. And I often think it's because the future's not yet written for us in this experience. There's an element of destiny. There's a destination, and perhaps from where they are in their lives, they can see where we're likely to go and the likely encounters. But yeah, we're still given that free will, aren't we? And although I believe in reincarnation and the ability to reincarnate, I think that the cruel twist is that none of those lives are important in this life. Otherwise, they would allow you to have that conscious memory all the time. It's about living this life now. You only get to do that once and to go through that experience. And you have free will. You're in charge of your destiny to many extent. And if you're going to live to 100, but you take up a hobby of dying in front of trains, you're probably not going to make it to that. So, free will is an important part of destiny. Malcolm, Bill, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I think spiritual law is quite right what Annie-Anne said there. There is a spiritual law. Not everybody can come back and say that I'm still here. So there is a mechanism, for want of a better word, why we don't have our family and friends always coming back into our life. Yes, they're there to a degree, but spiritual law dictates that the only now and again can that breakthrough, for want of a better word, can happen. But maybe that is a good thing, because as you quite rightly said, Ashley, we don't maybe want to know everything out there. There must be a wee bit of something left for us just to ponder over, because if we knew the secrets of the life in the cosmos, what kind of world would we be in? So we're challenging and we're understanding all the time. Yes.
Okay. Bill, anything you wanted to say on that?
No, I pretty much concur with what Malcolm has said on that. You get glimpses and bits and pieces there. Over the spooky things here, I don't know what these are outside my window. I've seen these now for about 5 years, and I'm allowed to see them. I had a guy called Barry Fitzgerald who did a THI Ghost Hunters International in America years, and I met him at Glasgow University, and he's also helped me with my Talking Old project we're going to do with Mal next year. We're going to put out on the DVD. These other lights, he came with me in Glasgow in the gardens to do with, you're allowed to see certain things, and like say with the spiritual law thing, I think that's similar with alien stuff and other dimensional things. These lights I'm looking at outside Mal's window, Mal can't see them, and just under cloud light, I've seen them when I've been on aircraft at 25,000 feet, and there's layers of them. Your planet's covered in trillions of them, and I nicknamed them fire stars because on the night they were dull red colour. And it's like a one-way street they're flying in. They always fly from right to left, and I'm watching them now. And they go along in this direction. I used to follow my finger for Barry Fitzgerald, and he had a camera that could film really close up on the outskirts of the lunar moon. It cost about £3,000. He said, show me these lights you can see in the sky there. And he filmed other things around me. I says, nobody's managed to film these I can see. I've seen them for about 5 years. I can see them in daylight, in the dark. In the daylight, they're like pinky mauve colour. That's why I call them fire stars. When it gets darker, they go a red colour. When I concentrate on them for a wee while, they'll stop for a second and they'll go off like a flashbulb. Flash at me, like it's a consciousness connecting together. But then they still carry on moving from right to left always. And they all sort of entwine together. Then they'll shoot off really fast, stop a second, curl around on themselves. And I'm watching them now outside Mal window. Mal can't see them.
I think it's a gift that Bill has. It's like your good self, Ashley. You're a fantastic spiritual medium. And Bob, you're a good self researcher. Bill has this capacity to see these balls of light in the sky that I can't see. But I trust Bill with my life. I totally believe that he can see these little fireballs, etc. And orbs, etc.
Yeah. And certainly not random. We're approaching sort of end of show and time for adverts, but giving you guys a couple of seconds to think of something. I'm gonna put you on the spot and just ask to pass on some pearls of wisdom to our listeners or viewers at home. It doesn't have to be anything deeply philosophical. It could be from personal experience. But folks, we've really enjoyed getting together with you tonight and sharing these experiences. If you would like to see these sort of things again, then do get in contact with the studio. Check out the SPTV fan page on Facebook and make sure you're subscribed and following us across all the channels. And for me, everything we've been thinking about and the art of the possible about what might be out there, the thing I'm absolutely absolutely certain about is whatever you're going through, keep going through it, keep on keeping on, because you'll only ever get to experience that thing in this body the once. Enjoy it. I hope it's a journey in pursuit of happiness, and hope you're doing it with people that bring you happiness. So they're my parting words. Bob, over to you for some closing words.
Thanks a lot. I guess my philosophy in life is believe the unbelievable, because what science now will be science. It's just science fiction today is science tomorrow. You know that everything that we know now isn't real. It will be proven wrong at some point in the future. So just keep believing.
Nice, thank you, Malcolm.
And I certainly would enhance that, Bob. Yeah, we should always be learning. We should always be thinking out the box. We should always be looking at the paranormal in any way, shape, or form that we can. It's been, for me personally, it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm sure the people who's watching the show tonight have got their own experiences and they've got their own pathway. It's a wonderful, wonderful journey. The people I've met on this journey has been fantastic. The knowledge that I've learned on this journey has been terrific. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just one of these small guys in a wonderful potpourri world of the unexplained. And I just hope this journey takes me on further for many, many more miles. It's great.
Lovely. Thanks, Malcolm. Bill.
Well, same as what Malcolm come up with there. What people need to always be is stay open-minded on every single thing possible. And when you're on these journeys of your open-mindedness, also be kind and helpful to other folk in all their own situations, and give them a helping hand along the journey. And the whole planet and all of humanity, plus other parts of the universe, will be better for it. And just keep it all going in a positive way, and things will just get better.
Lovely. Well said, Bill. And just before I bring in producer Richard to see if there's anything he wanted to say, I'm going to leave a brief moment to see if anyone would like to use any electronic voice phenomenon. Any of our friends, family, seen or unseen, would like to come through and say something special in 1 or 2 words. Or any other beings in any other way, any flashings of lights or rockings or tappings, everything welcome. Okay, and remember, when we can't see it and hear it with our physical senses, look beyond that, folks. Producer Rich, you happy with the show tonight? Anything you want to say, sir? Okay. Well, SPTV special tomorrow night, folks. And that will be from 8 p.m, a demonstration of mediumship and the 2-year anniversary of Spiritual Psychic TV. Deb Clark and Marcus Lapser, lovely mediums. You're in for a real treat. And then Sunday morning, join Reverend Mummy and Daddy of Women and Spiritualist Church, Ray and Jackie Robinson, as we broadcast. Actually, no, you won't. I'm forgetting my place. My mum and dad are away. They've got to see my great uncle. So join Ashley Robinson from Women and Spiritualist Church tomorrow, as I will be broadcasting the divine service with the wonderful medium Jeff Hewitt, live from Women and Spiritualist Church, Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, with Spiritual Psychic TV. One more, folks. Oh, yes, brand new magazine to tell you all about, folks. There's going to be articles and stories and all sorts of interesting things from regular faces and new faces. So do head over to the main website, Spiritual Psychic TV online.com. Check out the Facebook page and all the other social media channels. There is a little advert for that magazine, which you can share with your friends, start to build up the appetite. Okay, and folks, I'm glad you've had a great experience with the show tonight. It's been a real genuine pleasure to come together with so many wonderful guys this evening and talk about this stuff. What a great way to have a Friday night. And you at home for engaging with us in the way and giving us some great questions and some things to think about. Okay, in that case, folks, good night. God bless. See you later, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Guys.
Bye.